All right, let's get into it. Today, we're breaking down the strategic playbooks for small and global businesses. And you're going to see that this is a story that goes way beyond just size and scale. We're talking about two totally different ways of seeing and operating in the world.
I mean, really think about that for a second. It's not just that one has more locations, right? The real difference is basically baked into their DNA, how they think about risk, the way they structure their teams, and the core strategies they use to compete and, hopefully grow.
So, to really get to the heart of this, we're going to compare these two models across 5 key areas. We'll start by defining the players, then look at how they enter new markets, organize their teams, adapt their products, and finally, how they actually make their stuff.
Okay, let's dive in.
First up, let's get a clear picture of the two archetypes we're going to be comparing throughout this whole explainer. Who exactly are the main characters in our story? So, on one side, you've got the agile small business. This could be a classic niche player, serving a super specific local community. Or it could be one of these modern-born global firms, a company that uses the internet to sell to an international audience from day one. And then, on the other side, you have the heavyweight, the multinational company, or MNC. These are the corporate giants managing these vast, incredibly complex operations across tons of different countries. So, with these two very different players in mind, how do they take that huge first step of going international? Well, as you might guess, their approaches could not be more different. So, what's the key difference here? It really all boils down to their appetite for risk. Small businesses, they want to test the waters. They're always looking for low-cost, low-risk ways to start selling abroad. The global businesses, though, they go all in. They make huge financial commitments to enter a market with a ton of force. And this step-by-step approach is classic for a small business. They might start with what's called passive exporting, which basically means if an order just happens to come in from another country, they fulfill it. No big deal. Then, as they get a little more serious, they might use an intermediary, like a partner company that handles all the complicated stuff about international trade for them. It is all about minimizing cost and avoiding those big, scary risks. Now, contrast that really careful approach with this. Global companies often use a strategy called foreign direct investment, or FDI. This is not just about selling a product overseas. This is about building or buying your own factories, your own research labs, your own offices in another country. It's a massive long-term commitment. And this just perfectly illustrates their goal. They use these heavy-hitting financial tools, FDI and mergers and acquisitions, where they literally just buy a local company to gain immediate market control and dominance. They are not dipping a toe in the water, they're trying to make a huge splash. Okay, so once they're in a new market, how do they actually organize their teams to manage all these international operations? This brings us to our third area, structure and coordination. For the growing small business, the solution is often beautifully simple and focused. Instead of, overhauling the whole company, they just create a new team, an export department, to handle all the international sales. It's really efficient, and it's all contained. Now, what's really fascinating here is the sheer contrast and complexity. Global companies can't just have one little department. They need these incredibly sophisticated structures, maybe organized by product line or by geographic region, or even these super complex matrix and network structures to coordinate thousands of employees across all these different cultures and time zones and legal systems. Next up, we're tackling a core challenge that every single international company has to face at some point. Do you sell the exact same thing everywhere, or do you change it up to match the local tastes? This fundamental choice is a classic in business strategy, and it's known as the global-local dilemma. You can think of it like a tug of war. On one side, you've got global integration, that's standardizing everything for maximum efficiency. And on the other side, you have local responsiveness, customizing everything to meet the unique needs of each and every market. This table really highlights the different paths they take. Small firms, they usually have to pick a side. They might go all in on local responsiveness, perfectly adopting one product for one specific foreign niche. Or if they're one of those born global types, they'll focus on global integration. But the large MNCs, they try to do the incredibly difficult task of doing both at the same time. They use what's called a transnational strategy, where they spread their operations all over the world, like, say, doing R&D in India and assembly in Vietnam, to try and be both globally efficient and locally tuned in. All right, finally, let's get down to the nuts and bolts, the physical reality of actually making things. Where do the parts come from? Who's putting them together? Let's take a look at the supply chain. The difference here really comes down to flexibility versus control. Small businesses are masters of flexibility. They outsource different processes and they use the internet to find the best suppliers from anywhere in the world, which helps keep their own costs low. Global giants, on the other hand, they are masters of control. They build, they manage, and a lot of times they even own their entire supply chains, from the raw materials deep in the ground all the way to the final product in the customer's hands. To really wrap your head around the sheer scale of a truly global operation, just think about the laptop you might be watching this on. Let's try to put a number on that complexity. This is just staggering. Seriously, think about that. A single company like Dell has to act like the conductor of a massive orchestra of 400 different companies, all spread out across 15 different countries, and they all have to work together perfectly just to create and deliver one single product to you. That is global scale coordination. So, after looking at everything from market entry to supply chains, what's the big picture? What's the main takeaway from all of this? The most crucial point is this: they are not just bigger or smaller versions of each other. They are playing fundamentally different games, and each one has its own unique playbook for success. Small businesses win with low-risk entry, simple structures, focused adaptation, and flexible sourcing. Global businesses win with high-commitment moves, complex integrated structures, a do-both transnational approach, and owned, controlled supply chains. And all of this leaves us with a final thought to chew on. As technology keeps erasing borders and makes global access easier than it has ever been, well, will the power shift? Will the agile, the flexible, the born global firm become the new dominant model for the future? That's definitely something to think about.